Hello, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural episode of FCN Prime News. I am your host, Trezene, and I will be with you tonight. For those who aren't familiar with the Fifth Column Network, we are casting live, so that allows us to have great interaction with our viewers as we are bringing you the news that you want to hear from a perspective that matters to you. Today's news was full of information about the shooting that was in Las Vegas and the Mandalay Bay Resort and Hotel. It was at the Route 91 Country Music Festival. It was one of the deadliest shootings that we've had in this country in modern history. 22,000 in the crowd, 58 dead, more than 500 have been wounded. For those who haven't seen it, there's a clip actually of just the huge confusion that was happening at the music festival. As people had no idea what was happening, they thought it was fireworks. I believe we have a video clip of the country music star who was up performing, and you can watch the confusion that was happening. Reports said that the shooting lasted an entire 2 minutes in 3 phases of shooting. 2 minutes is an entirely long time as people were scrambling, trying to figure out what was happening, and then they realized that as they saw bodies on the ground that someone was shooting. We do have information on the shooter. As you know, it was Stephen Paddock. He was a local from the Las Vegas area. He was 64 years old, and he actually was found dead by police from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Police said that they found him with 19 rifles inside of his hotel room at the Mandalay Bay Hotel, and he had hundreds of rounds of ammunition as they found him on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Hotel. He had been staying in that room since Thursday. Police were able to locate him by the insane amount of gunfire coming from his hotel room that actually set off the smoke detectors, and when they found him, that is when he killed himself. Other information that we do know about the shooter is that he was a licensed gun holder, but if you know, Nevada is an open carry state, which means that they are allowed to have machine guns, both in concealed weapons at any time in Nevada. I think the question that many of us are asking is, how did he get 19 rifles inside of a hotel room without anyone suspecting or guessing that he had them? Perhaps someone in the hotel or casino business who's watching the show right now can actually comment and let us know, give us some insight on how someone could carry in 19 rifles and not a single person suspect him, particularly at a casino where security cameras and surveillance are very heightened. I believe we have a picture of the sheriff of Las Vegas, Sheriff Lombardo. He gave a couple of press conferences this morning and this afternoon, updating everyone and what was happening in this shooting. What was so insightful, if you will, about Sheriff Lombardo's press conferences is that he made a couple of statements that didn't make a lot of sense to a lot of us on social media. Number one, of course, he said that the shooter was local. He said that he had no information on what the belief system was of the shooter, and of course said he was a sole aggressor and a lone wolf in this act of violence. He also said that this was not an act of terrorism. Social media went crazy today. The commentary is, sir, how is this not an act of terrorism when someone takes hundreds of ammunition, has 19 rifles, and opens fire on 22,000 people? What do you need for it to be terrorism, Sheriff Lombardo? Is it a Hispanic ethnicity? Is it the color of your skin that makes a difference? What is needed? Is it blackness? Is it a non-Christian belief that turns it into terrorism? I believe the Webster's Dictionary makes it very clear that an act of terror on people is indeed terrorism. This is the deadliest shooting that we've had in the United States history. This shooting beats a couple of shootings that we're aware of. It beats the 2016 mass shooting at the Pulse Orlando nightclub that killed 49 people and wounded 58 others. It beats the 2007 mass shooting at Virginia Tech that killed 52 people. It beats the 2012 mass shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary that killed 20 children. It beats the 1966 mass shooting by a mail carrier who killed 14 of his coworkers. It beats the 1966 mass shooting at the University of Texas at Austin from a university tower that killed 16 people. And it also beats the 2009 mass shooting at Fort Hood in Killeen, Texas, which killed 13 people and injured 30 others. What I found in doing research was that yesterday's shooting was the 273rd mass shooting we've had in the year 2017. The 273rd mass shooting that we've had just this year, which isn't even over. This was reported by the Gun Violence Archive, and the Gun Violence Archive defines mass shooting in the exact same way that the FBI does, which is 4 or more deaths caused by gunfire in a single event where there's no cooling off period. Yesterday's shooting was the 273rd mass shooting that we've had just this year. When we come back from commercial break, we're going to talk a little bit more about the NRA's involvement in all of this in our mass shooting history in the United States. And with that, we'll be right back. Welcome back to FCN Prime News. I'm your anchor for tonight, Trezene, and we are talking the Las Vegas shooting that happened late last night around 10 p.m. in Las Vegas. Of course, you guys have all seen a lot of this already on your local news, and you've seen a lot of this as well on social media. But here at FCN Prime News, we are always trying to bring you the information without any narratives and from an insight which matters to you, our viewers. At this moment, we're talking about the NRA and the NRA's silence in this issue. A lot of people on social media today were commenting on how the NRA has not commented on today's shooting. I think we're all saying to ourselves, what do they have to say in a conversation such as this? There were 2 issues brought up on social media other than the NRA's silence. One of those issues, which was brought up also by Hillary Clinton, is the fact that the NRA right now is pushing for legislation that will make gun silencers legal. And a lot of people weren't aware that this was on the agenda of this year for the NRA. A lot of people were saying if there were silencers involved in the Las Vegas shooting, how much longer would it have taken the people who were the targets of this shooting to even know what was happening? From the clip that we showed earlier in today's show, you saw the country singer on stage, and gunfire went on for probably about 10 to 20 seconds before people realized that it wasn't fireworks. If the shooter had access to a silencer, he would have probably have been able to kill many, many more people than the 58 who actually are dead from this shooting, simply because no one would have had any alert that this was happening except for seeing bodies drop and hit the ground. The second issue with the NRA that has been brought up is, and I believe we have a screenshot of the tweet of the young lady who actually brought this to light for people on social media today, is the NRA's role in preventing funding to educate and prevent injuries from gunfire. I believe that clip is showing at this moment, and you see it underlined in red. where the NRA has put into legislation that funding that goes towards injury prevention absolutely cannot, under any circumstances, be used to educate people on gun injury prevention. Think about that. It's one thing to be an advocate of guns. It is another thing to be, it's also the same thing to be an advocate of gun use and to be able to hold a gun and have a gun permit, have a gun license, and to even advocate hunting and other gun-related sports. It is an entirely different level of involvement to legislate and lobby that money can never go towards prevention and education regarding to gun injuries. It is very, very prevalent in our society, in our politics, for the NRA to be heavily involved in the election of politicians, to be involved in legislation and lobbying. This is what's going on this side with the NRA. Now, here at Fifth Column Network, we have no narratives, we have no agendas. Our goal is to make sure that you have all of the facts as you're going forward and making decisions in your civic, political lives. These are the facts with the NRA, that they not only advocate gun use and gun holding, but they are also in these other levels where they're actually preventing things such as preventing killings, such as the Las Vegas shooting. There were some other things going on in social media today, in social media commentary. If you looked at the two hashtags that were prevalent this morning and this afternoon, which were hashtag Las Vegas shootings and hashtag gun control now, is the issue of fake news. It was unbelievable today, the amount of fake news that was going on. And we had two particular issues with regard to fake news. One was people actually posting on their pages that they were looking for lost loved ones and posting pictures not of lost loved ones who were at the shooting, but of celebrities as a joke, as trolling on social media. So, for example, it would say, oh my gosh, I'm looking for my lost sister. She was at the concert in Las Vegas. Help me find her. Anyone have any information? And then they would post a picture of a porn star. That was going on, that trolling was going on today, which is not only insensitive, but it blocks all of social media as real victims and families of victims are actually looking for their loved ones who attended that particular concert. The second issue in fake news with regards to the Las Vegas shooting happened to deal with people wanting to push their narrative that this shooting was done in the name of Islam. I believe we have a couple of screenshots yet from another tweeter who said that they were on 4chan. 4chan is a site, kind of like a forum where people are talking and debating and having conversation, where they were actually brainstorming how can we push the narrative into the media that this shooting was related to Islam. Unbelievable. But it's not, because guess what? Soon you started seeing articles on social media today pushing the fact that the shooter was related to Islam. I believe we have also another screenshot of an article that was pushed out on Twitter today showing that. When I clicked on the article, because you know that I did, I clicked on the article. It had 3 paragraphs. One was there was information that the shooter had converted to Islam. After that, it went on to use the boilerplate language that we've been seeing all day today from all kinds of other articles. There was no supporting evidence. There were no facts. There were no sources. There were no links to any other articles or sources. They just stated it. They put it in their Twitter, tweet, and they hit send, and it got an incredible amount of retweets. An incredible amount of retweets, around 900 plus at the time that I saw it. It's really important as we're on social media that we really fact check what we're reading and not send on things that aren't true. But that's the narrative of today, right? When Sheriff Lombardo did his press conference, he kind of said that we don't know what his belief system is. He was a lone wolf. This didn't have anything to do with terrorism, because that's the narrative of mainstream media. That if something like this happens, try to first link it to brown or blackness or to non-Christianity. That's the narrative. This is also supported by the fact that a lot of news today tried to focus on the companion of the shooter. In the first press conference that Sheriff Lombardo gave, he said, I'm not going to ID the suspect, but let's talk about his Asian girlfriend. Here's her name. Here's where she lives. Here's her social security number. Here's what she loves to eat for lunch. He gave detail after detail after detail of his Asian companion. I saw interview after interview where no one's focusing on the shooter. They want to talk about his Asian companion. I made the choice today not to post pictures of her, not to say her name, not to give any information about her, because we don't want to support the narrative that there's got to be some black, brownness, or anything other than whiteness has to be linked to something like this for it to be plausible. We have a screenshot, actually, of an article where Time magazine, a very credible source, published that a legitimate, valid study was done that the number of mass shootings done since 9/11 have been done by white men. And the number done in the name of Islam is very, very low. Very low. This was published by Time. But nevertheless, they want to push the narrative that there's got to be some type of minority linked to something like this for it to be plausible. I think it's really important that as we're watching the news and we're participating in the news, that we begin to stop trying to separate what is happening, to make it seem as if it's mental illness or it's lone sole aggressor. No, most of the mass shootings in our country are done by white men. It's not done by anybody else, just white men. It's a sad tragedy what happened today, and in our country we definitely need mass shootings to stop. But unfortunately, without more gun control, it won't. We'll be back next Thursday for another episode of FCN Prime News. I want to thank you all for watching today. And of course, next week, we'll probably be joined by other people here at FCN, The Revolution, and J. Co. Is It, and maybe some other guests. But today, we decided to reroute some things to address the Las Vegas shooting. Again, I'm Tresene, and I want to thank you for watching FCN Prime News. We'll see you next Thursday.